Hi, I'm Carol, and I'm excited to share Population Education's lesson, When the Chips Are Down, where students compete for global resources and experience the inequity of global resource distribution. Then they trade to simulate how cooperation can impact access to the resources. The lesson has great ties to the social studies, particularly economics, and is written for upper elementary grades. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to define import and export and differentiate between the two, explain the economic principles of scarcity, surplus, and trade, and examine how trade around the world creates interdependence among people in different places. To complete this activity, you'll need a somewhat large open space and math counters, or poker chips, about 2.5 times as many as the number of students in your class. Join me in taking a closer look. The activity begins with students brainstorming examples of resources that countries need to ensure their people are healthy and happy. You should write students' contributions on the board. Then you'll go over a few economic terms: scarcity, surplus, import, and export. And now the fun begins. Spread students around the outside of a large area that you've taped off. Inside the taped area are the math counter chips representing resources. And as a country, they need these basic resources to support their people. So you'll give a signal, and students can collect up to, but no more than, 4 chips. Yes, it will be chaos, but it'll be quick. Once all the chips are collected and students are again outside the taped-off area, identify which countries, or students, fall into these 4 groups. Group 0 is students with no chips. These are countries with virtually no access to resources. Group 1, students with 1 chip. These countries have limited access to resources. Group 2, students with 2 chips, countries with some access to resources, and Group 3, where students with 3 or 4 chips go. These are countries with high access to resources. Point out that there are differences even within the groups by assigning a resource type to each chip color. We'll say that the red chips are food, the blue chips water, and the white chips shelter. Share this chart with the class, or challenge students to rank the various chip combinations from most ideal to least ideal. Students will reflect and debrief with the provided discussion questions, like, how does it feel to have your number of chips? Or, who is experiencing scarcity? Here, it might be more than you first imagine. Of course, it's those in groups 0 and 1. But there could be countries experiencing scarcity in Group 4 if they are missing one of the 3 chip colors. And now it's time to learn about trade. So let's check out Part 2. At this point, we want to see if everyone can get the chips they need for their country. By the end of this next activity, each student's goal is to have at least one of each of the 3 resources their country needs. So a chip of each color. Make it clear that finishing with more money is a bonus, but it's not the goal. You'll distribute $10, fake money, to each student and explain that this is to help with trading. Students also start with their resource chips from Part 1. We can check in with students. Who has a surplus? This represents a supply of chips. Who is experiencing scarcity? This represents a demand for chips. More great economic language. To try and get what they need, students can trade their chips with other students who also want to trade. Or they can use their $10 to buy resources from other students who have a surplus. The country they buy their resource from gets to set its own price. When trading is complete, ask students to raise their hand if they started off experiencing scarcity, but were able to finish with all 3 resources. These countries are now able to support their populations because of their connection with other countries. Ask students to raise their hand if they have the same amount or more money than they started with. These are countries that can maintain or increase their wealth just using their resources. The first provided discussion questions are meant to have students reflect on the simulation. Was the supply of chips greater than the demand for chips? Or was the demand for chips greater than the supply? How do you know? And then there are also more qualitative questions, like if trading opened up again, what is a strategy to make sure all countries end up with at least 2 out of the 3 resources? Do you think that strategy would be successful? And without trading, would as many countries have been able to support their populations with all 3 resources? What does this mean for countries in the real world? We love that the activity and discussion hit home the idea that interconnections between countries can have a big impact around the world. And so that's the PopEd lesson, When the Chips Are Down. Check out our website, populationeducation.org, for other great elementary activities.